First and foremost, we thank the Creator for another day of life. It's a blessing to have life. And the reality is that living or being alive is not absolutely the most important thing if you are not living. So we thank the Creator for the opportunity to live. Living is so important. You know, I wanted to speak a little bit about the importance of a father's love, and that a father's love is one of the greatest influences on our children's development of their personality. There's a great article called the Society for Personality and Social Psychology. And they say that a father's love contributes as much and sometimes even more to a child's development as does a mother's love. So we've been taught for so long in this society, you know, that mother. And I know I've felt that way with my own mom, you know, and the importance of her in my life. And I can't ever take that away. But how many of us are suffering as a result of our fathers not being in our lives? There's a new large-scale analysis of research about the power of parental rejection and acceptance in shaping our personalities as children and into adulthood. And this study says that a father's love contributes as much and sometimes more to a child's development as does a mother's love. And this is really interesting. Quote, in our half-century of international research, we've not found any other class of experience that has as strong and consistent effect on personality and personality development as does the experience of rejection, especially by parents in childhood. And I can tell you, I've experienced this when it comes to dealing with my students and those who have been rejected by their fathers. And you will see that there is a great number of young people who have committed suicide as a result of being rejected by their dad. This study says that children and adults everywhere, regardless of differences in race, culture, and gender, tend to respond in exactly the same way when they perceive themselves to be rejected by their caregivers. Because why? We expect to receive love from our mothers and from our fathers. So looking at studies, it was 36 studies from around the world. It had over 10,000 participants. And it found that in response to rejection by their parents, children tend to feel more anxious and insecure, as well as more hostile and aggressive towards others. The pain of rejection, especially when it occurs over a period of time in childhood, tends to linger into adulthood, making it more difficult for adults who were rejected as children to form secure and trusting relationships with their intimate partners. And these studies are based on surveys of children and adults about their parents' degree of acceptance or rejection during their childhood, coupled with questions about their personality dispositions. So what we're seeing is that the parental rejection that takes place in childhood travels with us and affects us in adulthood. And this is really interesting. And it says that the research in psychology and neuroscience is revealing that the same parts of the brain that are activated when people feel rejected is the same part that's activated when we experience physical pain. Did you hear what I said? That feeling of rejection, the same part of your brain that reacts when you feel rejected, is the same part of your brain that activates when you experience a physical pain. And unlike physical pain, however, people can psychologically relive the emotional pain of rejection over and over for years and years and years. So physical pain, you can get over a bruise. But emotional pain, right? Psychological pain is something that can stick with us for a long time. So when it comes to the impact of a father's love versus that of a mother, results from more than 500 studies suggest that while children and adults often experience more or less the same level of acceptance or rejection from each parent, the influence of one parent's rejection, oftentimes, which is the father, can be much greater than the others. So psychologists working in 13 nations created something called the International Father Acceptance Rejection Project. Has developed at likely to pay more attention to whichever parent they perceive to have a higher interpersonal power or prestige. So what that means is that the children are more influenced by whichever parent they believe to be more powerful. So if a child perceives her father to be more powerful or to have higher prestige, he may be more influential in her life than her mother. So this is the most important thing. That we know that mothers and fathers have an immense impact on children. If you look at your own life, you could see that. But the message that I want to send today is that for every father that's out there, understand that your love for your children is critical to your children's development. And in listening to this, it should motivate us as men to be more involved in nurturing our children and making sure that we don't get into this whole idea that it must be the mother's fault if the child is going through some psychological issues or emotional issues. No. It shows that fathers are more to blame than the mothers, because the father has a greater impact on the emotional productivity on his or her children, on his children rather, than anyone else. So I say to you in closing, for my fathers out there, man, be there for your babies. For my mothers, make sure that the door is always open for the fathers to be there for their children, because that love, the father's love, ain't nothing like it. May God bless us, may God strengthen us, and may we always be the fathers that either our fathers wasn't or that our fathers was. May God bless you. Amen.